have the rest. Awesome. So welcome everyone to the CI PM UX research planning. That's the first session that we are introducing, just to give it a little bit more time to talk about the research activities, user research activities in CI. So thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, I didn't have like any, like, I think I just nominated one actually, but yeah, so basically the session is planned for us to drop items that we think will need user research, or maybe that we're already running user research on, or maybe we need help of Dimitri, Lori, or Vitika, and like we need to specifically address that. Yeah, any questions about the goal of this session before we're going to move on to the topics?
No, that's great. I don't have any.
Lori, do you want to add something? Dimitri maybe wants.
Can't think of anything. I mean, it's kind of what Nadia said. We kind of get together to talk, and I think, Dimitri, you had last time, Vitika, before you started, we talked about having a separate meeting to talk about UX research needs to start getting those off the ground. So we're going to focus that conversation, I think, separately from this one, but this will feed into that conversation.
So wait a second. So in this discussion is the research planning discussion for CI, right? So the focus of this discussion is going to be to kickstart the validation processes for CI, right?
Yes. You should look at my calendar, Dimitri. I just show up to meetings. So yes, if that's what we're doing, this is what we're doing. I apologize.
It is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, like I would say, like tomorrow we have we have the UXPM meeting as normal. There's also an additional meeting purely for UX, just see like, hey, how can we best get Vitika into the CI, get things up and running, to best aid Tao in driving CI. But I would love, like, one of the tasks that I suggested in that meeting for Vitika is like, hey, let's put some force behind this and get this rolling. But I would say this is like the the kickstart of that, and then she can push the cart forward and get us there.
Yeah, I think we're aligned on this. Okay, cool. Tao, I'm gonna give it over to you then. Let's talk about what research issues. It seems like it's in progress right now. So let's talk about those, and Tao, you added a couple.
Okay. So there, yeah, I had a couple there. So the first one, the Jenkins wrapper solution. Thank you to Dimitri for creating the stub issue for that. It came out of a discussion I had with him that we were having difficulty getting users to test to beta test the Jenkins wrapper that we delivered as like the MVC, the first thing we could deliver to help users migrate from Jenkins to GitLab CI/CD. So Dimitri had created this issue after discussing with me that maybe if we did it as a formal research project, and we give a little incentive of, the thank you gift card that we give out, that might be enough incentive to get participation. I am aware that a lot of users that initially express interest in testing this beta version, I got a lot of response to my solicitation for testers in LinkedIn. They may have intended to test, but also things happening with the pandemic might have changed their priorities, or they weren't using the Jenkins version that we even support with the wrapper. And that could have also prevented them from participating, because one part of the instructions, is this someone linked to the beta testing? Yeah, if you go to the Jenkins wrapper beta testing linked issue, it does call out that there are in testing instruction number 2, there are requirements and limitations. And so the help that I need from this group is maybe I rethink this research approach. Maybe we don't use it just to find testers for the Jenkins wrapper. maybe I need to first step back and find out do some research on what is the most common versions of Jenkins that are being used out there, or if users even want a Jenkins wrapper. I think we jumped to the implementation of a Jenkins wrapper based on Sid's pretty strong direction that we need to deliver something in April or May. And so the team completely switched gears, and we basically displaced all other work for about 2 milestones to focus on this. But the approach of doing that in an emergency kind of skipped the steps of problem validation and solution validation. I still want to go back and do that. And skipping all that really exposed that we were shooting in the dark on what the users wanted. And I think we missed. Because there's not a lot of interest in this wrapper. So either, like I said, I don't know what the lack of interest is. Is it because our MVC doesn't support the version most users use, which I don't know the answer to that. What do most of them use? Yeah. Or this was not something that they wanted. They don't want a wrapper. They wanted a converter of all of the declarative statements, or I don't know. Yeah. We didn't do it.
That's what I was going to say, Tal. I think you've got 2 problems that you've identified that you need to solve. You need to figure out, 1, why is this thing not getting used that we made? And 2, what is it that they actually want? And it may or may not be this thing. And so I think those are 2 almost separate efforts, because they may not be the same person you could talk to. If they are, you can talk to them about both. But yeah, I think it's 2 separate things. Like one is kind of a solution validation.
So this is still valid the way it's written.
I think so, because you do want to understand why it's not being used.
Okay.
We kind of went a little backwards, like you said. We jumped into the solution before we understood the problem. But now that we have it, let's understand how it's meeting or not meeting people's needs. And then we also need to jump back, like you said, and start from the beginning to say, what is the need? And you can get some of that from the solution validation conversations with people, but having the conversation without this solution here is also, I think, needed, because you need them to also jump back out of the solution with you to talk about their use of Jenkins, talk about their versioning, how they use it, what do they need from us if we were to provide them some sort of Jenkins solution. What do they need it to do? So you might be able to combine these efforts in one session with somebody, but you would really need to find somebody who's, I don't know, like would be your target user of whatever this is.
But would I represent those 2 type of approaches as 2 different issues, though, in our UX research?
So. I think so.
Right, then,
yeah, you can combine them in one session, but they're 2 separate efforts.
Approaches. Okay.
One's,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll need to create one. Maybe Vitika and we could create one together. Like you could look over my shoulder as I create a UX research issue for the stepping back and finding out what our users do want as a solution for them to migrate from Jenkins. And that one would be, here's the other question I have for all of you is, we know there is a general problem, which is customers and sales prospects don't know how to, the best way to migrate from Jenkins to GitLab CI/CD. So we know that's the general problem. At that point, are we still calling it problem validation? Is the finding out of what exactly would be most helpful to them problem validation or solution validation?
No, you're still defining the problem.
Okay.
So you understand what would be helpful to them by asking, what are your problems?
Okay, specific.
But you're not bringing a solution to them for them to validate.
Okay. Whereas, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that sounds good. Vitika, I did, if you don't mind, the coffee chat that I scheduled with you, I think later this week. I might use some of that time. You can just look over my shoulder as I create an issue. I think it's tomorrow, actually. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that helps me. Lori, thank you for that input. So in which case, I'll leave this linked issue for the Jenkins wrapper solution validation. And Dimitri has some good questions for me to work through on what I want to get out of it. I'll add those details to the description. You know what? I might, Vitika, I want to leave our coffee chat alone. I'll create a separate deep dive session for us to work on these two UX research issues. And once I define what I really want in the issue, is the next step then, Lori, to get help from you or take our best stab at the screener? I forget the process.
It's always a good idea for you guys to start. Okay. And then if you want me to review and help refine, I'm happy to do so.
Okay. All right. I'll do my best draft of that, and then I'll just share that doc link to it in the research issue, and Vitika and Lori and Nadia and Dimitri, you all can give input on that.
Definitely. Feel free to, you know, always CC or tag us for input. Yeah, it never hurts. And yeah, I agree with Lori. It's good to give it a start, and then we can help you to take it further.
So a quick question regarding, so we're still talking about Jenkins wrapper solution validation, right? Is UX or PD going to be DRI for pushing this forward? Because I think I missed that.
I think it's PM.
So we have those two processes described in the handbook, and for the problem validation, that's the DRI is PM. And Lori, please correct me if I'm wrong. So problem validation process, that's driver. The DRI is the PM, and I think it would be great if product designer would be involved, helping, not facilitating, but like at least like listening, you know, like as a possibility to collect information. And then when we go to the solution validation, when we are already validating some ideas or some solutions, this is where the product designer drives it more. I don't know. This is at least what's in the handbook, Lori. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly how we should go forward, just mainly because I'm spread over three areas, plus I'm trying to do some strategic stuff, so I can't really be too hands-on doing it for you, but I can definitely help you. So it's nice because the product manager should have an understanding, like from the opportunity canvas, of what they need to uncover, and then from the solution validation piece, the designer was closer creating that piece, so they should have a good understanding of what they need to validate and possibly uncover with their stuff. But I'm here to help anybody with anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. So oops.
Because is this a solution validation or a problem validation? Like that was the thing where I'm still a little bit out of sync with the rest of us.
So I think there's two here, Dimitri. There's a solution validation with the thing that they've already made for the wrapper. What is this? Why aren't you using this? What's going on with this? That kind of solution validation with that solution. Then there is a problem validation because they move so fast, they didn't get to do that part in the way that it should have been done. There was a lot of assumptions made, and now our solution is not getting used. So we need to back up and look at it from the problem validation lens of, so you're using Jenkins. What would you like to do with GitLab and Jenkins? Like, how can we help you? So backing that up. So there's two different efforts. But I think in this case, that if Tao wanted to have those conversations with one customer about, hey, let's talk about how we can help you. Now I have a solution. Let me show you what this is. Walk through it with that person to get their feedback. I think that's also very applicable in this moment because she was the one who was so close in helping to create the solution as well. So it's kind of a little bit of, it depends on this one, but yeah, it's kind of a special case as well because we didn't do any of the UCD process on that solution before we shipped it.
Yep, awesome. And I just created this step issue, so I threw the link to it there. And then I'll okay. That was that super helpful, this part of the discussion. Anything else before we move on to the second thing?
So I want to loop back to my first question. Who's going to be DRI? Are we going to split it off and split it into separate researches? Like one is going to focus on solution validation, the other is going to be problem validation, or are we going to make it a joint effort, in which case we are still unclear who's going to be main DRI for this? Like I just want us to be super clear here, so that we're like, that we know what we want and that we can move forward in that way.
I think maybe since Vithika is new and we're starting bringing her into this new process, maybe we should split this out so it's kind of a clear delineation about who's going to do what, who's going to be the DRI for which part, and then go forward with it that way. What do you guys think?
You mean specifically call out who's the DRI for each of those two issues? Yeah.
Yeah, so Tal, you take on the problem validation one, and then Vithika and Dimitri maybe would take on the solution validation piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me do this. I'm going to edit what. So
I think as the scope is small from the solution validation perspective, or at least small, take that with a grain of salt, but like not super huge. It's a specific part of the application. I think this is going to be a good project for you, Vithika, to start rolling in, and I'll be your backup with any questions you have and get you set on the way. Get you ingrained within the UX research process, where actually you're going to be as new as me with some of the things regarding the new tool. Hey, Laurie.
Okay. Yeah, this would be a good one for me to dive into the research work.
I think that's perfect, yeah. And of course, Vitika, you can always count on help from us. But yeah, Dimitri, that's a good proposal.
Sorry, Nadia. I was like, I've messed up your typing. Should take on. Oh, okay.
Don't
So
worry, I'll fix it.
I see what you did there. Oops. Okay. So does that answer your question, Dimitri, as far as clearly calling out who's the DRI for each of these two research issues around Jenkins? Okay. Okay. Okay, so then the next one, I linked to this. This is a stub issue I created based on a discussion and a request, suggestions from Jason. Let me back up. So what we were delivering in 13.1, that is continuation of work from 13.0, is Sarah, our fine engineer, is putting out the very initial version of the directed acyclic graph, the DAG, and she was not comfortable. She was more comfortable calling it a beta and collecting feedback, as opposed to making any warranty that this is a fully baked new feature to visualize a DAG pipeline. And Jason's suggestion was, if we're going to call it a beta, let's truly run it as a beta and collect feedback. And there was Sarah needed to make some reference to this an issue about where to put feedback, and also Jason wanted to go out and make a Twitter post and say, hey, we have this DAG pipeline in beta version out there, go check it out, and then give us your comments in this issue. And so they both needed some place. So I went and I created this really fast. But I think should we formalize this as kind of a research thing? And thank you, Dimitri, for the questions that you think we should add to the description. I haven't had a chance to go copy and paste it in, but maybe we can talk about it in this in this meeting. Is this something, Lori, that sounds to you that it is a kind of a problem validation that kind of organically came about out of development?
Problem. I think this is solution validation.
I'm sorry.
Because
I'm
you've
sorry.
got a
Yes.
solution. It's like, wait,
I
wait.
meant solution. I meant solution. I meant solution.
I'm only one cup of tea in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine. Like, I've done this before. You put an MVC or MVP or whatever we're calling them these days out, and you invite people to give feedback on it. That it's not a bad thing. I think we just have to have a mechanism to figure out who all is going to look at the feedback and how long we're going to let that run, and what are we looking for in the feedback to say this is a go, no go, success or failure. That's all I would say that we need to define for this process, in addition to what Dimitri has here.
Okay, so can
you list that again, Lori, just to make sure that we're documenting this as good as we can?
So what I said was, in addition to what Dimitri has there in his bulleted list, he's got a section detailing our hypothesis. We also need to describe what success and what failure looks like based on the anticipated feedback that we're going to receive. Because we are asking them for their feedback. So how will we know if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing? So we need to figure out like what that looks like, so we can go back and look at the feedback and go, oh, okay, this is what they're saying. How does that match to our success criteria or our failure criteria? And then Dimitri also mentioned the time period we're looking for the feedback. So how long are we going to run this experiment, this feedback piece on the DAG? Because we need to know it's beginning and end, and then again, we have to go back and look at it. And the other thing was, who is going to look at this data, or who all is going to look at the data, and what are their roles with looking at the data? Because I imagine Sarah's got a perspective, Tao, you've got a perspective, Dimitri, you've got a perspective. So is it that it's going to run, then we'll have a meeting to talk about the results? Like, we just have to wrap that piece up of like, how are we going to come to a conclusion, and who's going to be in charge of that? I think that's all I said.
So mainly, who's going to be DRI for this research, in a way, we would say, right? Like, I think we can handle this similarly as any other solution validation, but more publicly created. I would, by the way, want to, as a related point, the issue we now have created is going to include our details on how we're going to set this research up, at least because I've been putting in that information within this issue. However, as this is a public beta feedback collection issue, I don't think those things mix. Like, if we're going to give all the details of our hypothesis, when things work, when things don't, and people are going to read that first before they're going to put in their feedback in the feedback issue, then I think they're going to be biased, right?
Yeah, I think we need a separate UX, a separate issue under our UX research project that has all of the sections, like the hypothesis and all that you're suggesting, Dimitri. But part of what you're suggesting, which is guidance on what type of feedback, or guiding the user on what feedback to give us, we can supplement in the description. Is there a template? Do any of you know if we have an issue template for collecting user feedback in any kind of public testing?
Not that I know of, but
I couldn't find one, but then I realized
not necessarily something that we like. I know, like Jackie, the PM Jackie, she's got like a Google situation, a Google document or something that she uses when she interviews customers, but it's not passive. It's like she's doing it with them. So I don't think we do. Dimitri, do you know if any of the other designers are doing anything like this? But I don't think anybody else can verify.
I have been asking around based
Okay.
on this issue. Like,
Okay.
hey, is anybody else? Do we have any other issues in beta which we are doing something of a similar thing with? I got a few responses, and basically the only thing that is there is like there's some setting in our personal like customization options that features the words experimental and beta. Apart from that, there is no like a real like any collection of data surrounding that. Then there is a issue in progress currently being worked on by Camellia from, I think she's in security if I remember correctly, and she is offering like an data tag the same as we're doing for this issue. And I have suggested, or at least I have made a comment in that in progress issue, that for Verify we are thinking of like implementing an issue for collection of feedback from users using this feature, and we're implementing it in a certain way. So there might be a chance that she will be following suit in that way.
What was the name of the person? Possibly who?
Camellia, but Camellia
may be working on something. Okay, if you all click on, I added the link to the Jenkins wrapper public testing. Since I couldn't find a template when we did this, and Kenny initially started this issue with just a very empty description, and I added in what I thought, and I may use this. I may use something like this, Dimitri, for the feedback for the DAG beta version, and then all of the comments you have, move it over to a research, a issue in our research, UX research project. But so I just call it something beta, public testing, to let them know it's open to anyone. I give a short little paragraph on the background, and then I just give them the instructions on what, in this case, I had to, I don't know if we normally give instructions. Maybe we just go, the instruction is here, go look at this DAG, and then give us your feedback in a comment. In this case, because Jenkins had some very specific things the user had to set up, I went ahead and spelled out the steps, and I numbered them so that the user can refer to step number 4 doesn't make sense, you know, or I got stuck on step number 4, which I know they couldn't install the Jenkins runner container builder. And I don't, and then I did have a section for documentation, and I agree with you, Dimitri, in your comment that the feedback issue for the DAG beta should link to some documentation. But other than that, if everyone's okay with it, I will, I can't, well, I'm probably not the usual DRI for the solution validation issue for the DAG beta, but I don't want to put I don't know. What do y'all think? Is that something that Vitica with Dimitri's support should be taking on so soon? We're already having them work on the Jenkins.
I'm gonna jump quickly in.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go to another meeting.
Okay.
I propose that I will catch up in the CI UX meeting we'll have tomorrow.
Let's do that.
If this meeting will continue on. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
There's many meetings to join.
Can we all continue this at tomorrow's then? Okay.
Yeah, I think for us it's also better, like we will have this frequent. I think I set up this every other week. Let me just double check. We have it, yes, bi-weekly. Yeah, and kind of like running maybe a little bit ahead. I think we should be cautious with the amount of research studies we plan. I don't know, Laura, because like you, probably Laura can confirm my words. Usually it's pretty like heavy on the initiatives, plus also we have design work. But yeah, I think the best is Dimitri and Vitica to answer that question together.
Okay, all right. And I agree with you. I do want to be careful with how many UX research projects we start, but I just knew these two were already in flight and in very messy form right now. And so I do want to clean these up and approach it with the normal process. So I'll clean up as much as possible.
And let's see what we can do. Yeah, I'm not saying no directly. Definitely, maybe we can plan some efforts here and there for both. Let's see.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I love that we started having these discussions. I think this is definitely like nice, and I hope we will get a bit more up to speed to doing those research studies more in CI. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thanks, folks.